Anger, greed, gluttony, pride, envy, sloth, and lust. The 7 deadly sins. Humans are guilty of them all. But what about animals? Are they, like us, natural-born sinners? Do animals sin? Okay, so in the absence of a conscience, it's a bit of a philosophical stretch. But look at the language we use. We call each other greedy pigs. And try talking about lust without mentioning animal attraction. Think about it. Where would laziness be without the poor old sloth? Or, for that matter, pride without a peacock? There's something going on here, but is it really sin? Let's start with the first of our 7 deadlies. Anger. Just one look and you recognize it. That's because anger has a face, and it's not pretty. But hold on a minute. This wolf may look angry, but looks can be deceiving. For most animals, what looks like anger is something else entirely. It's aggression. Anger implies lack of control, while aggression is all about achieving an end. And among animals, aggression is what separates the men from the boys when it comes to that all-important job, finding a mate. Among the male bighorn sheep of Canada, aggression is the only way to get a mate. It looks like anger spun out of control, but it's actually a carefully choreographed match. The only objective, to establish who's got the brawn and who gets the girl. Witness this round of head-to-head combat. Each horn weighs as much as 2 bowling balls. Jousting rams charge at speeds of up to 20 miles an hour. At 300 pounds apiece, their collisions can be heard for up to a mile away. And males will tangle for 24 hours at a time. Yet for all of their headbutting, not a single drop of blood is shed. The rams walk away with barely a headache. It helps that the rams have 2 craniums, one skull inside the other. These guys are built for the job. Still, headbanging isn't entirely risk-free. The life expectancy of a bighorn ram, which averages 14 years, actually decreases with the size of his horns. So the lucky guy, usually the one with the heftiest horns, gets to pass on his genes. But the price is high. Aggression, if not anger, seems to be hardwired into most animals. But that doesn't mean they're all born with their combat skills in place. Whereas humans must learn to control their anger, other mammals spend a lifetime learning to be really theatrical whenever they lose their cool. That's because conflict helps keep the animal kingdom healthy and strong by weeding out the weaker genes. And aggression is so vital to some species, it is carefully nurtured and taught. These lion cubs begin fine-tuning their aggressive impulses just weeks after birth. It's literally the school of hard knocks, and these cubs had better take their playground fistfight seriously. Soon, they'll be fighting for real. And if they're not fighting one another for the role of Pride Master, they'll be out on the savannah showing off their hard-earned skills. Now is the moment when every ounce of anger and aggression is finally let loose. And the consequence? One thing's for sure, it would be a crime to call it a sin. Which of the 7 deadly sins can lead to murder most foul? Next on Animal Planet's Natural-Born Sinners. Envy. It's considered one of the very worst of the 7 deadly sins. Because it leads to so many of the others. Hatred, theft, even murder. Everyone, it seems, wants to feast on the lion's share. But animal envy? Surely it's a contradiction in terms. Envy, after all, is such a perfectly human emotion. Or is it? Take what happens inside the uterus of certain sharks. The first fetus to develop promptly devours all his brothers and sisters, be they eggs or embryos. All of Mom's resources will go to him and him alone. Talk about sibling rivalry and keeping Mom's affections to oneself. Biologists call it siblicide, and it's not uncommon. Goonie birds, or Laysan albatross from Hawaii, are a prime example. They may exhibit a degree of fidelity that's rare even in human society. Their divorce rate hovers around 2%, but when it comes to sibling envy, there ain't nothing that'll stand in their way. This Goonie chick is only a few days old, but he's old enough to murder his sister. The calculation may be cruel, but the math is convincing. One chick receives more food and protection, plus a better chance of survival. And though Mom and Dad have lost a daughter, they're still more likely to pass on their genes through this single dominant chick. It's kill or be killed in the wild, and this kind of envy ensures that might makes right. Only the strong survive. The North Pacific Steller sea lion is a case in point. Chummy and easygoing for most of the year, It's a different story when breeding season comes around. Bulls will do anything to mate, even committing murder. Why? Because even though there are thousands of female sea lions, only a small number are willing to mate in any one season. Most females only mate once in their entire lifetime, giving birth to a single defenseless pup. So how does a lusty male increase the chances he'll get lucky? Well, if he kills a baby seal, then the heartbroken mother will mate again, desperate to replace what she lost. It looks like an act of heartless murder, driven by raw envy of the male who got there first. But even these sea lions are not natural-born sinners. Indeed, this male's only job is to reproduce as often as possible. And even the killing of a baby pup is just one more means to a very natural end. Coming up next on Animal Planet's Natural-Born Sinners, when vanity kills. Pride. It means an excessive, indeed sinful belief in one's own abilities. It is also known as vanity. And in the animal world, there's certainly no shortage of pride. Whether it's showing off and making a splash, or strutting your stuff, animals do it all the time. These gazelles have turned it into an art form. Naturalists call this bouncing routine stotting. It's designed as a taunt to every predator on the savannah. It says, "Look at me. Not only can I outrun you, but I can even put on a gymnastics display while I'm at it." But why such overbearing pride? Because the gazelles want to send their cheetah foes another message too. It's animal sign language for, "Don't even think of eating here." Still, among most natural-born sinners, it's usually the male of the species who gets to strut his stuff. Why? Because getting the right female requires inflating your resume and your tail feathers. Nature embraces and rewards some truly ostentatious displays of beauty. Strength, speed, and grace. It's just one more twist in the long tale of reproduction. If you look good, the logic goes, you must be good. This is how animals help bring on the next generation. How animals win a mate. Birds are some of the biggest exhibitionists in the animal world. Talk about cocky. Watch this frigate bird working the beaches in the Galapagos Islands. It takes him nearly half an hour to puff up that bright red valentine under his beak. But the love message is clear. And it's delivered by airmail. But can any creature be as proud as the peacock? Behold the living, breathing symbol of pride. The peacock's fan, with its 150 shimmering tail feathers, serves a dual purpose. It shames the competition and impresses the girls. Peahens choose males for the quality of their fans. They're especially intrigued by the number of colorful eye spots. But showing off presents its own problems. Remember those starting gazelles? Well, drawing attention to yourself is one thing, but pride goeth before a fall. Is laziness a sin or a survival strategy? Coming up next on Animal Planet's Natural Born Sinners. Sloth. It seems like the least of the 7 deadly sins. Everybody likes to take a nap, or 2, or 3. But are these natural-born sinners lazy, or are they actually busy, conserving energy? From the desert to the jungle, sloth rules. Gorillas pass close to 50% of their so-called waking hours snoozing. The king of beasts spends most of his time, more than 20 hours a day, flat on his back. And these monsters of the far north laze about in snowbeds for much of their day, fighting off the fur-freezing cold and napping after lunch, all with one purpose: conserving energy for the hunt. Of course, some animals are just plain slow. So slow, they might as well be asleep. You're looking at the slowest mammal on Earth. The sloth, named after the sin, travels about 1 mile every month. This 3-toed sloth lives in the forests of Central and South America. Suspended upside down, he sleeps a full 19 hours a day. But there's no guarantee that he's sleeping. A sloth will hang around for days, even after he's dead. With his long limbs and a head that can rotate through 270 degrees, the sloth looks like a creature from another planet. And he is pretty bizarre. His fur alone is home to a mini ecosystem of beetles, mites, moths, and algae. And not only is the sloth slow, he's fussy too, dining almost exclusively on the leaves, buds, and twigs of the cecropia tree. In fact, the only time things get even vaguely hectic in the life of a sloth is during its once-weekly bowel movement. So just why is a sloth so slothful? Well, for one, its low rate of metabolism allows it to live on very little food. But there's another advantage to low-stress living: longevity. His life may not buzz with excitement, but the average sloth does live for up to 20 long, if very quiet years. Humans may laze around and feel guilty about it, but natural-born sinners slouch around for a reason. So-called slothful behavior in nature is really just smart living. An animal has to be careful about how much energy he or she expends, because you never really know where your next meal is coming from, or how long it'll take to put it on the table. Still, if you're concerned about getting your share, you can always indulge in our next deadly sin. Greed. The desire for more. Much, much more. Greed is all about acquisition, and for most animals, the only possession that really counts is a mate. There's usually a reason for a natural-born sinner to get greedy, to want more than it needs. And more often than not, it's female. In Alaska, every fall, male caribou lock horns. Their ambition, exclusive control over a harem of anywhere from 5 to 40 cows. Acquiring such a love nest requires an elaborate sparring ritual. And it's all very serious. These 500-pound males with 4-foot-long antlers lock horns for hours at a time. And similar combats occur across the animal kingdom. Wherever females give birth to only 1 or 2 offspring, like the caribou, you'll find males getting greedy for mates. That's because if one of his offspring die, his chances of passing on his genes are greatly reduced. Still, some creatures take this logic to the extreme. Meet the mammal most likely to win the title King of Greed. The elephant seal is seriously greedy for females. Lots and lots of them. Just 30 males can have 1,000 or more females under their charge. Every winter, these elephants of the sea home in on the very same beach where they were born. The males weigh in at over 2 tons, more than a large pickup truck. These heavy lifters arrive first, hauling themselves onto the beaches and laying claim to territory. The bigger the male, the bigger his spread. Beginning in September, spring in Chile, love is in the air. And it's the biggest and strongest male who accumulates the most females. Scientists have dubbed this type of alpha male the beach master. Once a beach master has established his territory, the females move in. With the right location and at the height of breeding season, a beach master can have a bevy of 100 beauties in his harem. And true to his greedy form, the beach master has no intention of sharing his reproductive good fortune. The result, 97% of all elephant sea males never even get a mate. The members of this unlucky majority are called sneaker males. That's because their only hope of reproductive success rests in a little adultery. The strategy? A quick act of trespass, followed by an even briefer fling, all while the beachmaster is busy or asleep. It may not seem fair. It may even seem sinful, but there's a reason the beachmaster gets all the girls. These greedy males are the ones best equipped to survive. And when it comes to winning, nature demands more. Coming up next on Animal Planet's Natural Born Sinners, is wolfing down your dinner a sin or a virtue? Gluttony. The sin of pigging out. Food. We love it. We need it. We crave it. But too much of a good thing, that's the sin of gluttony. In the animal kingdom, there's always a reason for a natural-born sinner to gorge his way to this guilty pleasure. Say hello to the Komodo dragon. These mini dinosaurs are the largest living lizards left on Earth, and the most gluttonous. Komodos live on a few small islands in Indonesia. They can grow up to 10 feet long and weigh more than 250 pounds. These dragons have a hearty appetite that includes snakes, pigs, goats, deer, even other Komodos. Not to mention the occasional human being. But no matter what they eat, they like to eat, and eat a lot. Their teeth are like hacksaws, slicing through the toughest meat. Each 200-pound dragon can down a 160-pound pig at a single sitting. These gluttonous lizards gorge, eating as much as they can, as fast as they can, because the next meal may be weeks away. Why? Because a Komodo kills its prey very, very slowly. First, the Komodo locates lunch by using its 9-inch-long, forked tongue, tasting his next meal on the breeze. Then, all it takes is one loathsome bite. The Komodo's saliva is his deadliest weapon. Dragon drool teems with lethal bacteria. Once this toxic swarm enters the buffalo's bloodstream, he's doomed to a slow, agonizing death. The Komodo will consume nearly every bit of his prey, from bones to fur to hooves. But this ultimate carnivore does leave one thing behind. Any vegetable matter in the buffalo's guts is tossed out for the birds. Gorillas take a more laid-back approach to gluttony. In fact, the only time gorillas don't eat is when they nap. So it's eat, nap, eat, nap. That's the way it goes for this chest-thumping, natural-born sinner. And it takes a lot of fuel to keep these guys going. A full-grown male can weigh up to 500 pounds. Still, gorillas are chiefly vegetarians. They eat plenty, but we're talking leaves, bark, fruits, and buds. Not quite the high-protein diet of the Komodo dragon. And those big bellies? They may look like a sure sign of overeating, but that's not the case. That endless diet of veggies creates bloated tummies and plenty of gas. If a gorilla didn't eat for a single day, his seemingly fat belly would soon deflate and become flat as a board. In the animal kingdom, There's always a reason for a natural-born sinner to gorge his way to gluttony. But how to explain the shark? Sharks will eat anything. License plates, turtles, cans, lobsters, surfboards, and surfers. They'll even gorge on other sharks. These voracious eaters inspired the now famous phrase, feeding frenzy. And that's exactly what you're watching, as these great white sharks feast on the carcass of a 35-foot-long Brutus whale. One good bite tears off up to 40 pounds of juicy whale blubber. At 20 feet and 5,000 pounds, the weight of an SUV, the great whites got a mouth that measures more than 4 feet wide. Rows of up to 3,000 teeth make gluttony easy. Yet most sharks eat only 2% of their body weight per day, and that's less than most humans consume. The fact is, sharks rid the seas of its trash, dead and decaying fish, even the garbage humans dump into the seas. And what sharks do for the world's oceans, vultures do on land. In medieval times, the demon of gluttony appeared in the form of a vulture. It was a good choice. Like the shark, vultures gorge themselves on anything, preferably if it's dead, but close to dead will do. For the vultures, this cheetah's lunch makes for perfect pickings. But she's not quite finished and has no interest in sharing. Still, the vultures are patient, at least for a while. They're nature's undertakers, and they're built for the job. If their heads and necks had feathers, they'd need to spend hours cleaning and preening, and this gluttonous bird would rather be gorging. Often, a vulture will eat so much in one sitting that it can't fly again until it's had time to digest. So, vultures may be the bad boys of the animal kingdom, but can we really call them sinners? Like its fellow scavenger, the hyena, the vulture has its own role to play in nature. They may be ghoulish, but they safely dispose of millions of diseased and rotting carcasses every year, removing the danger of infection from other animals and humans too. So, though vultures may be the superstars of gluttony, their appetites serve us all. Next on Animal Planet's Natural-Born Sinners, the world's lustiest animal. Lust. An excessive craving for the pleasures of the flesh. In nature, there's no shame when it comes to sex. The driving force inside every creature on Earth is to pass on its genes to the next generation. But some natural-born sinners take the sexual imperative to extremes. This handsome pair will mate every 15 to 30 minutes for the next several days. Lusty elephants send each other chemical love letters by way of pheromones. And cheetahs, heaven forbid, are actually incestuous. Birds are more prudish. 90% of their species mate for life. That's because bird chicks are small and vulnerable and require constant attention. If dads weren't in the picture, the defenseless chicks wouldn't stand a chance. But traditional family life really is the exception rather than the rule. One male, many wives seems to be the favored arrangement among the natural-born sinners of the animal world. Polygamy guarantees that the strongest, toughest males get the girls. That equation ensures that only the most powerful males pass on their genes, which is exactly why polygamy is so popular in the natural world. Now, lust may be about reproduction, but sometimes it takes a little romance to get things going. In Australia, it's the female crocodile that does the romancing in her own version of the hot tub. Croc males are much bigger and more dangerous, so she must be clear about her intentions. She's come to make love, not war. By raising her chin submissively, she signals not only her good looks, but her good mood. She submerges and seductively blows bubbles along the length of his body. Fortunately, he gets the message. He draws her closer. In the end, a new generation of crocodiles will soon be in the nest. But not every female is as romantic as the croc. Some seem determined to turn their natural lust into mortal sin. Which is one reason why male tarantulas aren't big fans of the one-night stand. Rather, mating is a carefully strategized battle plan. This male Peruvian red-toed tarantula is lightly built for speed and agility. He'll need it. Female tarantulas don't kiss. They bite and swallow. He chases after the female until she turns to attack. To avoid her needle-like jaws, her lusty suitor then tickles her chest with his front legs, causing her to raise her belly. At the tip of his two front legs, he bears sperm organs. He deposits his sperm into a small opening in her midsection. Using his leverage, he pushes her off and makes a dash for safety. He's lucky. But some males are less fortunate. This Mexican red-kneed tarantula approaches this long-legged beauty with care. And for good reason. Perhaps she misinterprets his intentions. Or perhaps she's just not in the mood. Either way, he pays for his visit with his life. And she has successfully combined two deadly sins, lust and gluttony. Still, to really see lust run amok, we have to return to reptiles. Garter snakes are as kinky as the sexual knots they tie themselves up in. Each spring in Manitoba, Canada, tens of thousands of snakes wriggle out of hibernation and set out looking for love. Because there are so many more male garter snakes than females, each female attracts lots of slinky suitors. Scientists call these lusty orgies mating balls. And a ball of snakes will writhe and sometimes even roll until one male finally mates with the female at its core. But take notice, something even more bizarre is going on. Some of the males cross over, impersonating females and driving dozens of other guys to wriggle all over them. Why? One thought is that the males, emerging from hibernation cold, wet, and groggy, need to increase their body temperature quickly to allow them to escape predators. All that body friction warms them up. It may seem kinky, even sinful, but if that's what it takes to survive, the male garter snake's all for it. So just who does win the prize for lustiest animal? For the answer, we travel to the rainforests of Central Africa, to the Congo, where the bonobo resides. Bonobos are related to the chimp, and that means they're one of our closest relatives, sharing nearly 98% of our genes. But that's about where the similarity ends. There is virtually no aggression, no fighting, no war in bonobo society, but there's lots of sex. And it's not just between males and females, and it's all pretty casual. Sex is the key to the social life of the bonobo. It's their way of avoiding conflict. And that means they have sex before eating. They use sex to make up. They use sex as a way of introduction and to establish, well, who's on top. But even bonobos aren't really sinners, natural born though they are. The animal kingdom may be a wild, dangerous, even scandalous domain. But if you're really looking for sin, instead of looking at nature, you may want to take a peek in the mirror.
You're on Animal Planet. Next, that's my...